Okay, because we have a shortened bell schedule today, I'm going to let you work on these notes on your own time because some people write quicker than others. So just know that these videos are going to go by quick page-wise, so you're going to need to pause the video so that you can write this stuff. Okay, so point, and then you'll write an example of what it looks like, line, what the example looks like, segment, what the example looks like, and what the notation is. Okay, for array, same thing here, example, write the what the notation is. Okay, for angle, definition, and then make sure you write this, and then write the examples out to the side. I'll come back and talk about this at the end of the video. Okay, for a plane, definition, write this example off to the side. Okay, I'll come back and talk about this at the end of the video. Okay, straight angle, example here, and then acute angle, example here, obtuse, example here. Okay, two angles are complementary, so what complementary looks like, okay, and then definition and drawing over to the side, and then supplementary is over here, and then intersecting lines, example is right here. Parallel lines, okay, so example and what the notation looks like, and then perpendicular lines, drawing, and what the notations look like. Vertical angles, okay, vertical angles, and then example over here, and then which ones are the vertical ones. Okay, and then this is an actual problems that I'm going to hand out to you when you are done writing all the vocab. So once you get all that vocab, raise your hand, and then I will give you this paper, which will go through these examples here. Okay, so going back to this is all review from last year, our geometric terms. So a point is an exact location in space. A point has no dimension. Okay, so the example of a point is just the location that you would see on a map. So like A is the example, and we use that as a capital letter. Okay, so we don't need to write point A. We would just write our notation with the capital letter that represents that letter. Okay, so we would just write A. So a lot of people like to put the dot, okay, and the A, that's not how you write it. It's just a capital letter. Okay. Line, a collection of points along a straight path that extends endlessly in both directions. So the difference between a line and a segment, a line goes on in both directions. It keeps on going, where a segment actually terminates. So I could have a segment inside this line and call it CB. Okay, that would be, I can measure from C and I can measure to B. Here, I cannot call this a line AB because it doesn't extend on. Okay, it terminates from A to B. So the notation is different. So a line has arrows because it goes on forever. Okay, but a segment, when we list it, we're just saying it goes from this letter to this letter, and you just write a bar up above it. Okay, then array. Okay, so array starts at one location and goes in one direction. Okay, so you actually can have an array up here where it starts at B and goes in the C direction. Okay, or you can start at C and go in the B direction. So there would be two rays here. Okay, this drawing only has one ray. Okay, but you have to have a starting point, and notice points are capital letters, and an ending point that tells you the direction that you're going in. Okay, so it always has the starting point and then the direction. Okay, so two capital letters again, and the same thing with segment and line have capital letters. It's just the notation up above it is different. Okay, angles consist of two rays that have a common endpoint. So the endpoint is where those rays meet at. So here's my endpoint and my ray going in that direction. My endpoint and my A going in that direction. Okay, so we call this the vertex where those two rays meet at. Okay, and that letter, the B, is always going to be that middle letter. Okay. So you can't say angle CAB because then you would say that A is your vertex, and it's not the vertex. B is the vertex. Okay, so it's always the middle letter. Okay, so the only difference on this one, and this is why I have this drawing, is I don't have just one angle. Okay, so with this one, if I were to add some points on there and call this A, B, C, and then C, B, and I'll call this one D. Okay. actually have three angles there. So the one that you had up above, I could actually just call it angle B because there was only one angle there, okay? This one I could not call angle B because if I said, look at angle B, you're not going to know which one I'm talking about, okay? Am I talking about this one? Am I talking about this one? Or am I talking about the big angle on the outside? So anytime there's more than one angle, you cannot list it as just the vertex. You have to list it with the three letters. So if I call this angle ABC, or I can list it backwards as angle CBA, but notice B is in the middle because it's the vertex. Okay. Then I could call this angle right here CBD or DBC, but again, I need to make sure that B is in the middle. Okay. And then the big angle that we would have would be angle ABB or backwards DBA. Again, B is in the middle. And you have to have an angle symbol. If you don't have an angle symbol and you just write the three letters, then that is actually going to be a plane, which we will see coming up here in this next part. Okay, so make sure you have this added on there, okay, so that we know that we cannot write it as angle B. Okay, so a plane. A plane is a flat surface that extends endlessly in all directions. So we draw it as a box, but really it just keeps on going, okay? We don't draw the arrows on there just because it just makes more confusing, but by definition, a plane extends on, and it's flat and extends on in both directions. The points have to be at least three, so at least 3 points that are not collinear. So that means those 3 points cannot be on the same line together. 2 of them can be, okay? But you can't have 3 letters that are all on the same line together. So we could write this plane as ABC, BCA, I can call it BAD, okay? Any of these 3 letters, okay, as long as they're not on the same line together. Okay, they listed it with 4, which is fine, just as long as you have at least 3 that are not on the same line together. Okay, so we had another plane, so you're going to just draw a sketch of a rectangle or a square. And say I have multiple points that are on a line. Doesn't really matter where you're putting them. Okay, I'm going to go A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. So if I'm naming this plane or this box, I can list any 3 letters as long as they are not collinear, so they cannot be on the same line together. So if I called this plane ABC, it would be wrong, okay? It's wrong because these 3 lines, or these 3 points are collinear, okay? They cannot be collinear. They cannot all be on the same line together. So another wrong answer would be CDE, okay? They're on the same line together. I cannot do that. Same thing with the FG. It is wrong, okay? But if I picked this one and this one and this letter, that would work. Okay, so I could call it ABE, because not all 3 letters are together on the same line. 2 of them are, but it can't be 3. So 3 letters cannot be on the same line together. Okay, so hopefully you're remembering this from last year. Okay, straight angle, exactly that. It's just a straight line. Okay, so we say that that's 180 degrees. Typically, we just call it a straight line versus calling it an angle, okay? But they're calling this an angle ABC, which if you've had a protractor, you know we go from 0 to 180. Okay, an acute angle, okay, is smaller than 90 degrees. It cannot be equal to 90, okay? So it could be 89 and smaller, okay? Obtuse angle is an angle whose measure is more than 90 but less than 180. It can't be 180 and call it obtuse, so you can't call a straight angle obtuse, okay? So basically we can go from 91 to 179, okay? And here's an example of that one. Okay, 2 angles are complementary. So complementary is 90 and supplementary is 180. So if you remember from last year getting those 2 mixed up, I always said alphabetically the letter C comes before the letter S. So numerically 90 comes before 180. So complementary is 90, supplementary is 180. So when you have 2 angles that add to equal 90, so this angle plus this angle, so they showed you right here adding to equal 90, then you could say that they are complementary. These two added to give you 180, so they are supplementary, okay? Then intersecting lines, so they're lines that cross each other, so their intersection point is a point. So you have a line here and a line here, so where they cross at is a single point. And remember, points have to be single capital letters. Okay? Parallel lines, you've seen this before, so parallel lines never cross each other, so we have this line and this line, so their slopes would be the same. They don't have to be going horizontal, they can be going vertical. But they're lines, so notice the notation that's up above it is going to have the bar with the 2 arrows. This is your symbol for parallel, so it kind of looks like absolute value or equals turned upright. Okay, so EF is parallel to GF, and these are lines. Okay. Down here, perpendicular lines, okay, they're going to form a 90 degrees, which is all of these guys going around would have to be 90 degrees. Okay, and again, these are lines, so notice the notation that's up above the letters. Okay, it takes at least 2 points to make a line. Okay, so they could have listed any 2 points on this. It doesn't have to be P and Q. They could have said S and Q because those are on that. But the symbol for perpendicular is an upside down capital T. Okay, and we've done that last year as well. Okay, vertical angles are angles that are equal to each other. So they are opposite on the opposite side of lines that intersect. Okay, so 120, this would be 120. So this is 60, this is 60. If you looked at this one and this one, 120 and 160 add to equal 180. Okay, so we could say if we're looking at these two angles, if they add to equal 180, we had this back on the previous page, we could also say that those two angles are supplementary. So they don't have to be separate drawings for them to be supplementary. Okay. They could be on one drawing because those add to equal 180, and 180 is a straight line, which is a straight angle. Okay, now we're going to these problems, which I'm going to do with you in class. If you think you can answer these, go ahead and try it. These are the ones that I'm going to do with you. Okay, I will have a separate video of going through these. That first part was just for vocab for you to, some people write quicker than others. So I'm going to do these problems with you. And then when you are done, attached to the worksheet that I gave you will be problems for you to try. Okay, and again, if you don't get the worksheet in class, you should be able to open the attachment on the classroom Google Calendar. Just remember that the first part is going to be the ones that I'm doing with you. So if you scroll down on the attachment, you're going to see the ones that say for you to try it on your own. Okay, happy homecoming.